We're on. Welcome to Emily and Kerry, and welcome to anybody who's joining us today or listening to this Facebook Live later on. Today, we're going to be talking about motherhood, the loss of self, how society treats women who become mothers, or views motherhood as being the all-defining bit of who we are, and the loss then of we are as people, and support or lack of it, which is usually the case. What that's like for women and for mothers, particularly, I think, especially if we're seen to be all mothers. We're expected to do everything and be everything. And what about what we need for ourselves? So I'm Rosjke Hasseldine, mother-daughter therapist. I'm also founder and director of Mother-Daughter Coaching International, where we teach professional courses for therapists and coaches on how to understand and work with mothers and daughters. We also have online courses for mothers and daughters, and we have the Find a Coach page, where it's listed by country so that mothers and daughters can get the help they need, and particularly get help with therapists who understand the country and the culture that they come from. So, Kerry, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. So I'm Kerry. I have Kerry Hasseldine Coaching. I'm a certified life coach. I'm a mother-daughter coach, and I also work with Rosjke at Mother-Daughter Coaching International as Director of Operations. Yeah, that's me. Emily.
Hello, hopefully I'm coming through clearly. I'm Emily Bittner, and I have Wise Women Coaching, which is coaching for women and mother-daughter pairs. And I also have my private therapy practice here in the state of Maryland. Happy to be here today.
Welcome, welcome. So, motherhood. Well, my eldest is in his late 30s, so my experience, is talking about this topic actually is bringing me back 30-something years to what it was like actually becoming a mother. And I became a mother. I was living in New Zealand at the time, and there was no sense that as soon as you became a mother, that was it. That was your entire identity. I remember people, other women in the church, everybody around me. Just my entire sense of self just evaporated. And I remember feeling furious about this internal anger about it. But no, it's like a conversation that they didn't understand. I didn't have anywhere else, and other women didn't understand it either. It's like, well, this is your kids are your primary only responsibility. And I remember very clearly still the day after my daughter was born, standing, so I had my son, who was about two and a half, or nearly 3, and this baby daughter, and my partner off he always goes to work. And I thought, there you go. I thought we were doing this together, but you're left holding the baby literally, and feeling the weight of that responsibility. Yeah. And I don't think we talk about this enough. As we were talking about this before we came live, we're talking about this, how actually now I'm talking about it. It's traumatic for women. So, Emily, Kerry, what's going through your head?
Yeah. There's so many things going through my head because I'm in it right now. I have a 3-month-old, in addition to my almost 3.5-year-old daughter, both girls. And I'm hearing you, and there's pieces of this that I can certainly relate to. And, I also have a very supportive husband who's really this wonderful partner who constantly is with me in it, except for the fact that, and this is not because he doesn't care to be, but I think the piece of, the societal expectation that, okay, well, you're the one that has to take time off. You're the one, I have 2 businesses. So I have my self-made maternity leave, and, I had to create the support for myself. My husband, we both work from home, so he comes in and out of the day and helps, which I'm appreciative of. But even the first time around, it was having to be very intentional together and having this conversation of like, hey, we both wanted kids. We both wanted this, and me watching him walk to his office. I'll probably never forget this, but watching him walk to his office, in the house, and me nursing because I wanted to nurse, but also feeling like this sucks. This sucks that I miss my work. I miss, going off and doing my thing, and figuring out how to do that with no other support. But, I think so often, even the most supportive of partners, if you're not the primary caretaker as a woman, it's, you end up doing all the mental gymnastics, the logistical thinking, and figuring out how to make it work. How can I have this run as smoothly as possible? How do I put my career on hold so I can do this? And it's a really difficult, complex thing to convey to somebody if they've never been through it themselves.
I agree. Yeah. Because words don't always, I can feel what you're talking about. There's so much feeling and so much experiential emotions, and like you say, the mental gymnastics that doesn't even cut it in terms of the juggling and the decisions, and then the guilt. I did part-time university study when the kids were young, and I'm watching my daughter with he's 18 months I think now, and I'm thinking, it's sort of bringing it all back for me too. I'm thinking, how the heck did I do part-time university study? But actually I needed to, because it was my way out of, like, I had to go to lectures. That was it. I had to have something solid like this that couldn't be moved, because otherwise it would be moved. If it was something else that could be negotiated out, it would have been. So, but I remember going to a lecture and then coming home. And then coming home, and I think, oh my gosh, I hadn't thought about my son, who was probably 4 months old, something, for an hour and a half. And I felt so guilty. I felt like I'd abandoned him for an hour and a half, which was because I hadn't thought about him for an hour and a half. But it just shows you the sort of the expectation that we put on ourselves and is put on us. Yeah, that just for an hour and a half, you can't be out of your head. Yeah. What are you thinking, Kerry?
I'm taking it all in, listening to it. Takes me back with what Emily was saying, because I had a supportive partner as well. He also worked from home. And when you said, you watch them go off to the office, and of course that's their role at the time, that's what they're doing, and you've got your role. But like you say, the mental gymnastics behind that, where you just feel incredibly alone. And, you know, we talk about it takes a village to raise a child, and we're often left so unsupported. And, you know, I had a 13-month-old and a newborn, and 2 days later I was on my own with them. And it took me, well, probably never to sort of get over that period of my life where I felt like I hadn't had time to rest after giving birth. I was straight into dealing with the next one and the next day, and they all kind of then start to merge and roll into one. So you don't have that break. And I always remember something that you spoke about, Rosjke. I don't know whether it was when we did the course or whether it was something afterwards or it's in one of your books. But you talk about where you felt the first 6 months of a new mum's life, really the emphasis needs to be on the mum and not the baby.
Yeah.
Because it's the mum that needs the support and the help. The baby, you know, everyone, it's all about the baby, isn't it? The baby, and, you know, people come and it's presents for the baby, and yeah, of course that's normal. But actually it really is more about the mum. And I think in the olden days or the olden generations, it often was more about the mum. I know my mum said that she gave birth not a nursing home, in like a mother's home, and she was in this home for like a week before she was allowed to go home with her child. But that was her rest period. She had that time to rest, to bond, to recover. Whereas now we have them and we're back home. So there's lots of thoughts coming in. Was it better in the olden days? Were they looked after more? Have we regressed? Or weren't they looked after? There's lots of thoughts going through my mind here.
I think in terms of maternity care, we have regressed. And because I had my kids in New Zealand, and at the time, National Health Service, you got 5 days in hospital. I'm not sure. I don't know if that's the case today, but that was the norm. And I think from memory, if it was your second, you got 2 extra days. Now, that may not be the norm, but I mean, what I see going on in America at the moment, and even in England, you're out so fast. And with the first in particular, I think, there's no concept of the healing process, what one needs. And I remember in some cultures, there's a whole ritual of massage and that goes on. As in our European Western, we don't have that.
It's pretty fascinating. I feel I feel grateful to have the perspective I have. My first daughter, it was during COVID and lockdown. And so there was that pre-existing isolation. So nobody was there to help us. I know that we would have had some family help if that hadn't been the case. But this time around with my second daughter, my in-laws, my husband's family, and they're all from Iran. My mother-in-law came to help. Both mother and father-in-law came to help, but my mother-in-law was beyond what I would have ever even asked for. I mean, she was so aware of and so thoughtful to take care of me. I mean, it makes me well up with tears just even as I say it. And she just constantly said, moms have the hardest job. Mom has the hardest job, you know, and she's coming from this very patriarchal world, and she gets it. And she just, I mean, down to let me make food so you don't get constipated right out of the hospital, you know, and just was this extreme support for me and trying to really take care of me. I mean, she helped with our kids, and of course my husband was supported in the process, but she was just so, it made me understand, oh, she really gets this. And it felt like such a gift to have that support from her. You know, my own parents aren't able to do that. And so to have that for 3 weeks, I was a little like, how's this going to be? But we needed it. I mean, we just needed it. And it was so just enlightening for me to go, wow, somebody could be this supportive. And, you know, Kerry, what you were saying about the village thing, which I think most of us think of, you know, my husband and I say all the time, we have to pay for our village. And to tie that into what you said, Rosjke, that the guilt, it's like, okay, you got I have one daughter in preschool 4 days a week. Today happens to be the day that she's home. And so I try to like max that day. And so even just before logging in, it's like, okay, this is my day during the week that she's home. And then I have the baby. My husband's in a meeting for work, and I'm trying to like do the activity of, okay, you want to bake together? And I have the baby in the baby carrier because I'm like, all right, I have free hands. And it's like, there is the guilt of her being in preschool 4 days a week, but it's also like, where else does one get the help to do all of it, you know? And so it's a constant push pull of like, I want to be with you. I want to be there for you. And, oh, I need to just be human right now. I need to, or in my case right now, I just need to take care of one of you. Yeah. So there's a lot of pieces to what you're both saying that just ring true, and I'm in the thick of it right now.
Yes. And then moving forward, you know, when you're I was you know, I liked how you said your sort of self-defined maternity or self-funded maternity leave. And that's the thing, if you know, if we're in private, when we, you know, and even some businesses or corporates don't even provide maternity leave anyway. The sort of the juggling of and feeling entitled to, I think it's more than just juggling. It's so that guilt doesn't just become the umbrella under which we function. They're entitled to say, actually, I need to work.
Would you say, do you think it's hard to retain a sense of self when you carry guilt as a mother for all of these different things?
That's a good question.
It's been mulling over in my head. You know, we have guilt about, you know, I put mine into preschool, my eldest, for a couple of mornings a week so I could have more time with the baby, because I had this toddler running around who was, you know, why, curious about life, insatiable, you know, wanting to know everything. But I had a newborn, and it was like, so but I felt guilty about doing that because it took her away from me. So where does our sense of self, how do we retain that when we're carrying this guilt? Is this normal? You know, I
don't think it is, because I think if you look at it, guilt is a natural thing when we've done something wrong. So so when as you're talking, I think this is a really good question. Actually, it's making me really think, because I think guilt. So what have we done wrong? We've stuck. We are trying to meet everybody's needs. Baby's needs, you know, a curious toddler, a 2 or 3-year-old that actually needs, you know, engagement, entertaining, activity that we can't provide if we've got a 3-month-old or a whatever 8-month-old. We're trying to meet everybody's needs. But I think the guilt is actually, it's toxic guilt. It's coming because we are expected to be superhuman.
Absolutely. And this is where it boils down to a good enough mother and the superwoman mother. And when do we get rid of that super mum label? And that's hard in this patriarchal society where you have, you know, you go to nursery and you've got the mums vying to be the best baker and the best doll holder. And all of those, or the children are doing X, Y, and Z, and yeah, so it's almost like a guilt by proxy. Would you say this toxic guilt?
I would say,
Definitely.
and it's something you said too, Kerry, about working mums. It's like it's also when a mother's going to be seen as people first.
Yes.
And working mums, like you pointed out, Kerry, where's the working dads? We don't say that.
Yeah.
Men retain their identity.
Yeah, it's not an everyday language, is it?
No.
It's there.
No.
If a dad does stay at home and the mother goes to work, it does then become a working dad, but it almost becomes whoever stays at home and does the main caregiving is the working mum or the working dad, when caregiving is not just, it's a human quality, it's both of you. It's the way we speak about it, isn't it? It's the terms we put it under. It's we need to redefine this, I think, don't we?
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, and the reality is I agree. And I think the reality is that, we're all working within a particular system. You have your own family system, and then you have the societal system. And it really shows you how it's not set up to be very supportive of the primary caregiver, and in most cases it's women. And so I think, in our case, we try to create a scenario that says, to use the word ideal feels far-fetched, but that's as much as we can be supportive. And that requires either family or people who are willing to come in and help you. And it's interesting when you said the guilt by proxy piece, like, I don't feel so guilty when my child is very happy with whoever she's with. But if she's unhappy, this idea that like you have to constantly make your kid happy, then the guilt can come in. And that's where you go back to what you were saying, Kerry, about the good enough, which is something I have to remind myself all the time. I go, oh, it's good enough. Okay, who cares? Who cares if that's not done today? That's good enough. This is it. Nobody's keeping track of you and what you're doing. It's good enough. And if I was talking to anybody else, I would be compassionate if they were in my shoes. So I have to apply it to myself.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not like they're not going to remember they baked cookies at 3. Mine have a vague sense of baking throughout their life, and they bake now and they go, yeah, I remember this, but they don't. It's only when we get the photographs out that they go, oh yeah, I can see. So it is reminding ourselves all the time. And even now when they're young adults, it's good enough. So long as you're doing the best you can with the resources that you've got and the situation that you're in, it's good enough.
Yeah. And in all of this, in terms of coming back to the topic for today, how's it good enough for us? So I actually want to come back to what you said, Emily, in terms of you had, your in-laws and who gave you an experience of being understood. Your mother-in-law gave you an experience of being understood, like she got it, and cared for, and in a sense, as you were telling that story, I thought, why can't that be the norm? We don't have a society where that's the norm. That is the exception to me. But that's a society that neglects women, neglects mothers.
Yes.
Who are then blamed if we, in any shape or form, are perceived, and I put this in big quote marks, to neglect, you know, others or our kids. So it's how does one keep focus in all this doing on yourself?
And is this because society sees
It's been
women well, that they are the main, that they have to be self-sacrificing and self-serving, and they have to give or always give to be this mum. And this is where you struggle to then retain your sense of self, because society expects you to do X, Y, and Z. And
the sexism.
Yeah.
What are you thinking, Emily?
A couple of things. One of the thoughts just evaporated from my brain, so let me see if I can come back. The expectation of the perfection could be the lack of sleep with having a 3-month-old. Let's circle back to that. Maybe it'll come back.
Yeah. No, don't worry. We've all been there.
Here it is. I just remembered.
Okay. That was fast.
Okay.
That was very fast.
So that's lucky this time. I'm not saying I've got it figured out, because I know I don't. But this time around, I think also because you couldn't do anything in lockdown, right? Which was when my first daughter was born, and people couldn't have support. So this time it was like, wow, I could go somewhere. I could do something on my own. I could meet up with a friend. I could hire a babysitter. I was aware of all the stuff that I could do. And I wanted to take advantage of it. And so as far as retaining a sense of self, who knows, a year from now when I look back on this, how I'll see it in hindsight. But for right now, I feel like I'm holding on to some pieces here that are little anchor points. Right away, I was like, my husband and I have to have some quality time together so we can actually have our relationship that matters to me and have fun. And so I booked a sitter for every Wednesday night and thought, maybe we'll get together every Wednesday. Maybe some of those Wednesdays.
Whoops, what happened there?
So I think the internet's broken up. She may come back. I think we've had a good run. It's been here we go. Are you there?
Yes.
Yeah. I
every Wednesday.
could hear you guys the whole time, so I'm here.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, every Wednesday there's the sitter, so that like either we get to have some fun time together or we get to do something independently. And before that, the last 3 months, like I had hired a postpartum doula who was our saving grace during lockdown. I'd never even, it was suggested to me back then. And, that was the only care we had. It was, sometimes she'd come and I'd just take a nap the whole time she was there. I'd maybe cry and tell her about what's happening, and she could offer some support and some ideas. And then it was like, take a shower and take a nap. This time around, it didn't feel so dire. And I was like booking her and going to have a coffee with a friend. And a couple times I went to like a day spa for a couple hours and just was like not willing to let the time go by where I didn't take care of myself. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are days where I feel like I'm going to scream, but there's this part of me that feels determined to have these touchstone points in this, intense period of motherhood in the first 3 months where I'm just like, I have to be
Yeah.
well enough to show up, to do this, to make it sustainable long term.
Yeah. That's it. What you're talking about is actually so wise.
Very.
It's extremely wise. I think there's a book here, Emily. Really, I think this is so wise, because I think, and it doesn't, some people can't afford to go. I'm thinking of who, is listening, can't afford to go to the spa, but find something that keeps you connected to yourself, no matter how small it is.
Yeah.
Keeps you connected to yourself. And that is not only, and society, or, depending on how patriarchal your family is, that might make, you might not be supported in that. But actually, it's life-saving.
I think that those words you said there, Rosjke, are key, being connected to yourself. Because I think we give up this self-kindness to fulfill this potential of being this super mum. And I know there were times that I tried to be super mum, especially with two and not having any support. And I did lose that connection of self-kindness, because, even down to, I remember trying to get my eldest into more of a routine, and the book that I bought and read, honestly, it was all about, when baby goes for a nap in the morning, you need to do X, Y, and Z, and you sort the kitchen and you sort this out for the next thing, and da-da-da. And I'm, as a new mum, you're thinking, okay, well, that makes sense, and I'll do this. But actually, with hindsight, looking back, I'm like, no, I should have slept then. Why didn't I sleep then? Why didn't I do something for me? Why did I not run a bath? Why was I following these guys? And it was written by a woman. Why was I following these guidelines? Yes. Because you're so desperate for help and support that you find it where you can. Yes. And, you think it's the right thing to do. So, yeah, Emily, I hold my hat off to you. Honestly, that's incredible to have that knowledge.
And I have my days where I get caught up in let me have the laundry done and let me have everything. I mean, just in general, I like, to have stuff taken care of. So that was also a part of me before kids. But I do think, like when I'm in the car driving, and I'm curious as to what you both have experienced with this, but I think to myself, I'm in a period of my life where I don't have hobbies.
No.
I have my businesses. I love my work very much. And, if I can go for a hike, I'll do something like that, where my friendships are, I mean, to say they're important is an understatement. They're lifelines. So I'm always making sure I get together with my friends. That has to happen. But like, I'll be in the car and I think, I wonder when am I going to really get to be with myself in a way? Did I just cut out?
No. Carry on. Yes, okay. We can hear you.
When I can be with myself in a way where it's not about work, it's not about another person. It's really about, attending to some creative yearning within me. And in terms of sense of self, those are things I feel disconnected from right now. I feel like, I can sit there and go, yep, this is not in my life right now. I wonder when it will be. So I think in that sense, it's not utterly forgotten, hopefully. But, those are other, we have to be more than our work. We have to be more than our parents.
Whoops.
I think we've cut out again. Can you hear us, Emily?
She probably can hear us, but I'll carry on. I think what you're saying, because I can completely agree with you. We are more than our work. We're more than our being parents, being mothers. We're people. That's the mother-daughter coaching, mother-daughter attachment model. We are people first. And that creative. I'm listening to you, Emily, actually is really probably a very good message for me in terms of building this Mother-Daughter Coaching International, sort of, in a sense, mothering it in a way. You know, I think, again, even with our work, you can lose our identity, a sense of self and a sense of space and time.
I think women past and potentially even now can lose a sense of identity when they get married.
Yeah.
A sense of personhood.
Totally. And actually, so we've got the Women's Power Circle training coming up. This is for therapists and coaches. Because in a sense, what Emily's saying, Emily, you're saying, really, like, we need the lifeline of other women is vital. So, yeah, I completely concur with everything you're saying. Yeah. Sorry, Emily, we just carried on talking.
No, great. I heard bits and pieces. It was kind of intermittent. So I think I know where you're at in conversation here.
We have been talking for nearly 40 minutes. We could talk about this forever. I think we should do part 2 at some point next year. So to catch up with you, see how you're doing, and carry on this conversation, because I really believe the more I, and especially of late, and the more I work with mothers and daughters in this, you know, and sort of develop this mother-daughter attachment model, the more, and especially of late, I think really we need a paradigm shift around a new definition of motherhood within society that retains the mother's self, not just as an optional extra, but as that is who she is. Yeah, there really needs to be, the patriarchal model is just not working. It never has. But it's certainly not, especially with the lack of support and the expense, you know, and that, like Emily said, we have to buy, there she is, sorry. We have to buy our village today, and which is, yeah. So I think we will finish. Yeah. So thank you for anybody that's been listening today. I know there've been a few of you, and also anybody that listens to this in the future. Yeah. And look out for the sort of Mother-Daughter Coaching International's Facebook Lives next year. We'll be carrying on the conversations about mothers and daughters. Emily's back. Hi, Emily. We're just saying goodbye.
Hello. Okay. Hello and goodbye.
Stay on, and when I close off, we can just have a chat afterwards. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So. Yeah. Let's just do a quick go around of just whatever comes to mind in terms of to sort of close it off. So for me, it's really, I wish I knew now what I knew. I wish I knew 30 years ago what I knew now. But there is no point beating myself up about that, because the conversation around me was all about, you are a mother, and that's all they saw. So it's like looking at a mirror that was presented for me was just, you are now a mother. And Rosjke disappeared. But I need to also celebrate the fact that actually I held on to Rosjke. Just like you described, Emily. So I held on to her. And that, I think, is important. Yeah. Kerry,
for me, listening to Emily takes me right back to, because I feel like I'm at the other end now. So I've got one at university or college, as you would know, and I've got one that will potentially go next year. One's 18, one's 19. So this is probably the easiest time for getting back you So you've got a few years yet, Emily, but it does come around.
It does happen.
But
Yes.
it brings its own troubles and thoughts, because then you start to think, you know, it goes by so quickly and more stuff comes in, but it's a new beginning, it's a new time, it's a new period.
Yeah.
But again, like what you said, Rosjke, I think for me, looking back, I'm starting to celebrate what I did and what I was able to do and how I did it, and looking at the girls that I've got and how amazingly kind and wise they are and thoughtful. It's a real good time of reflection. And yeah, there was always a sense of me there, and she's coming back. So I like that.
Good.
Yeah.
Excellent. And Emily.
Well, I appreciate the hope that you've offered up. And I'll say, just, you know, I became a mom the first time at 38, now 41. And there's something about that for me, I think, that has helped. I suspect, I should say, because I can't really know, but I suspect is helping me hold on to me through this. You know, I had built up quite a life but before kids entered the picture. And I think that helps. At the same time, just this whole conversation is this really good reminder of, you know, it's okay to slow down. It's okay to not have it all figured out. It's a really difficult system that we have to work within.
Yeah.
And it just really reinforces to me, like, just to be kind to myself, to really be kind to myself, and to let go of any perfection that enters in, whether it's, you know, in the ethers or driven by other motivations within me. But yeah, that it's just be kind to myself, I'd say is the big thing that I'm taking from this conversation.
I agree. And actually, yeah, and understand where's the expectation coming from, because it's, you know, there's like you say, the ether. Is it what everybody else, patriarchy, whatever, thinks I should be doing? Is that, but is it really what? Is it good for me right now? Is it good? Is it, do I value it? You know, like, do I value having the dishes done? Maybe today, but maybe tomorrow. No, they can pile up. You know.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Thank you so much. This was really rich conversation. I loved it. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you. I was happy to be a part of it with you both.
Thank you. Yeah, and thank you for all the listeners. I'm going to end it now.